The chair will now entertain requests for 1-minute speeches. For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute. The gentleman will suspend. The House will be in order. The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize National Milk Day, which we celebrated yesterday. National Milk Day dates back to January 11, 1878, to commemorate when milk was first delivered in glass bottles. Millions of Americans drink milk. It's a delicious and refreshing beverage that provides key nutrients like calcium, potassium, vitamins A and D in every glass. Milk provides 13 essential nutrients, which is especially important for growing children. This is one of the reasons why my Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act is so important. The Whole Milks for Healthy Kids Act will soon be signed into law this week and allows schools to offer flavored and unflavored whole and 2% milk options. National Milk Day allows us to recognize the many dairy farms across the country. In my home state of Pennsylvania, the dairy industry contributes $14.7 billion to the state's economy. Mr. Speaker, I thank our American dairy farmers who work around the clock to provide nutritious and delicious milk to all Americans. Happy National Milk Day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from New York seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in memory of the exceptional life of John Cunningham, a resident of Rye for nearly 60 years, who passed away last week at the age of 93. He was not only a familiar face around our community, but he was a familiar face on Broadway, on TV screens, and in movie theaters. John's acting career included roles too numerous to mention, but many are memorable to those anywhere in the nation. He was the father in Mystic Pizza, Mr. Anderson in Dead Poets Society, and the character Sylvester Rhinebeck in the Christmas time movie Silver Bells. He was on the Broadway stage as Captain E.J. Smith of the ship Titanic and as John Adams in 1776. He had TV roles on 30 Rock, Miami Vice, Law and Order, The Good Wife, among many others. His success as an actor notwithstanding, his role in the community was warm and friendly to all. Despite his status as a celebrity, he was approachable. He used his talents to help raise funds for local organizations, including dramatic readings with other actors such as Francis Sternhagen, a New Rochelle resident, in the well-loved Players and Playwrights series at the Rye High School Performing Arts Center. John and his wife Carolyn, who served as a member of the Rye City Council, raised 3 children, all Rye High School graduates, with 6 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. John served in the U.S. Army, achieved a master's degree from Yale's Drama School. He was an active congregant of Rye Presbyterian Church, where a memorial service will be held this weekend. From the floor of the House of Representatives, we salute this neighbor and friend who made a career in the arts and in so doing brought honor to his profession and to his home community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia seek recognition?
Ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the United States Army's remarkable 2025, defined by service, sacrifice, and strength, and filled with moments to showcase the character and resolve of our soldiers and support teams across the globe. In 2025, the Army marked its 250th birthday with community celebrations and tributes to the generations that defended our nation. Its annual year in review also features stories of soldiers preparing for future challenges and meeting recruiting and retention goals well ahead of schedule, demonstrating renewed commitment and purpose. Including in this year of review was Fort Stewart, Rock of the Marne. This retrospective honors those who serve today and those who served before. It reminds us that our Army stands ready to protect the homeland, support partners, and uphold peace at home and abroad. Today we celebrate the Army's achievements in 2025 and thank our soldiers for their enduring dedication to duty and to country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from Oregon seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I am here today because this administration is playing games with costs, retirement accounts, and the entire financial system. He's attacking the Federal Reserve, which keeps our economy stable, by threatening criminal investigations into Jerome Powell, the Fed's chair. And he's doing it because Chair Powell refuses to give in to Trump's demands. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the independence of the Fed makes it so politicians can't use it like a weapon. If the president can bully or threaten the Fed chair, interest rates become a political tool. Inflation becomes a campaign strategy, and your mortgage, your job, and your savings become collateral damage. Make no mistake, Mr. Speaker. This attempt to intimidate the Fed isn't about justice or the American people. It's about the president's ego, in my opinion. I can't and I won't stand by and let that happen. I'll continue fighting to make sure that the Fed works for Oregonians and for Americans. I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from New Jersey seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to say go Bulldogs and go Jaguars, better known as Malcolm X Shabazz High School boys basketball team and Arts High School's girls basketball team, the champions of Newark Board of Education's holiday basketball tournament. I wish I had been there to see Arts High School girls basketball team secure their first holiday tournament title and to see Malcolm X Shabazz boys basketball team secure another win to keep them undefeated. But even though I wasn't there, I'm still cheering all the way from DC for a win that made all of Newark proud. With that, I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Vermont seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, Rabbi Abraham Heschel once sent a message to John F. Kennedy. Referring to racism in this country, he said, quote, "The hour calls for moral grandeur and spiritual audacity." And now, 62 years later, we see the excessive brutality of ICE agents. Peaceful protesters tear-gassed in the face. A pastor shot in the head with a pepper ball. We've got children being zip-tied, car windows smashed, people tackled and dragged, guns pointed at unarmed bystanders, people targeted for the color of their skin or the accents that they speak in. ICE agents demanding entrance to homes without warrants. And last week, an American citizen gunned down. Americans know this is wrong, and they're horrified. People of conscience across this country, we have to come together and be that voice of moral grandeur and spiritual audacity once again. We have to find our courage and speak out. There's no other way. I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Ohio seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today proudly to enter into the congressional records that the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center today cut the ribbon and opened the University Hospital. 820 large private rooms, 26 stories high. And so I say thank you to the Ohio State University's president, Ted Carter, to our CEO of the Wexner Medical Center, Dr. John Warner. Thank you for making not only my district, but Central Ohio and this country healthier. I say, as we are in this time in need of better health care, thank you for understanding the healthcare needs of the citizens of the 3rd Congressional District. It is, Mr. Speaker, the only level 4 maternity care hospital in Central Ohio. It includes 16 labor and delivery rooms and 51 NICU rooms, and it is in partnership with Nationwide Children's Hospital. We salute Columbus because it is stronger and healthier because of this investment. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from Wisconsin seek recognition?
I'd like permission to speak for 1 minute to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Like many Americans, I caught a little of the TV over the weekend, which was dominated by the tragic events in Minneapolis. However, there's one thing that I felt had to be commented on because I think there's a lot of confusion as to who we should be removing in this country. Right now in America, we have no shortage of people who are here from other countries. We are at the all-time high, even greater than the 1890s or 2010s, in the number of people in this country who were not born here, over 15%. We are naturalizing about 850,000 people a year. Nevertheless, there are congressmen who keep getting confused and think the only people that should be removed from this country after Joe Biden left about 10 million people in the country illegally, are people who committed serious crimes. That is ridiculous. Of the 10 million people that Joe Biden left in, or 8 million people, whatever, obviously it is up to ICE to remove as many as possible and get back to where we are historical norms. Thank you very much.
Yields. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Massachusetts seek recognition?
Unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in defense of communities across America terrorized by the dangerous, rogue, and violent actions perpetrated by ICE agents. Millions have seen the videos of ICE shooting and killing Renee Good, a poet and mother who was unarmed and trying to drive away. Following her tragic death at the hands of law enforcement, Republicans rushed to deny the truth and smear the victim, a playbook that has been employed frequently, especially against the black community. Now, the White House is claiming the ICE agents have immunity from lawsuits enough. That's why I've reintroduced my bill to end qualified immunity, to hold federal agents accountable for breaking the law and killing our neighbors. This bill is for Renee Good and so many others, like Keith Porter, a proud girl dad who was killed by an ICE agent in Los Angeles, and Ninko Ganchev from Chicago, who died in ICE custody after living in the United States for 30 years. This bill is for every person in America, citizen or not, to know that when ICE agents break the law, they should be held accountable. For the families of these victims, Congress must end qualified immunity.
The gentlewoman yields. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Ohio seek recognition? Without objections, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to uplift the inspiring, persevering spirit of our nation's people, embodied in an extraordinary young American, U.S. Olympic figure skater, Maxim Naumov. Despite having endured unspeakable loss, the tragic American Airlines crash over Arlington, Virginia in January of last year that claimed the lives of both his parents, Vadim Naumov and Evgenia Shishkova, Maxim stepped onto the ice this past weekend with courage, composure, and grace under pressure. At the U.S. Figure Skating Championships, he delivered a powerful short program for 85.72 points, fourth place, and a spot on the U.S. Olympic team. He then spoke with humility and love, paying tribute to his beloved parents who shaped his life. President John F. Kennedy defined true grit as courage, grace under pressure, perseverance in the face of adversity, and Maxim personifies that ideal. He teaches us that determination can rise even from deepest loss, and that discipline and artistry can become a language of hope. Bravo, Maxim. Your dedication as a genuine athletic ice artist inspires every young American to higher purpose. Stay the course. You make America proud for your generation. And onward, Maxim. Onward, America. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentlewoman yields. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from New Mexico seek recognition?
Extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, the American people want to know, why is the President of the United States and the Department of Justice going after the chairman of the Federal Reserve before they go after co-conspirators in the Epstein case? Mr. Speaker, the American people want to know why Donald Trump is using their taxpayer dollars to invade foreign countries and threaten our allies, but claims to not have enough money to fund American health care. And Mr. Speaker, the American people want to know why the president and vice president are giving cover for lawless shootings by federal agents while using political excuses to withhold funding for our communities for public safety, housing, childcare, and food. Because, Mr. Speaker, the American people didn't ask for this. They asked for safe communities to ensure they can live their lives with dignity and opportunity and to leave a country their children can be proud of. And, Mr. Speaker, this is not that. So we will continue to fight and hold this president accountable. I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Maryland seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today with grave concern over President Trump's vicious attacks on Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. I know Jerome Powell. He is a man of integrity, but more importantly, he's an honorable and public faithful servant with extreme knowledge and expertise of our financial ecosystem. The president's effort to criminally target him with baseless accusations is an unprecedented assault on our democracy and the independence of the Federal Reserve. An independent Federal Reserve is essential to Americans' economic stability, market confidence, and fairness to working families. The Fed is nonpartisan for a reason. It is guided by evidence, data, and duty, not to cater to the waves and whims of a president interested in his own political and personal fortune. If the Fed loses its independence, the consequences will be felt on an international stage, undermining global confidence in our economy, destabilizing financial markets, and risking economic chaos worldwide. The threat against Jay Powell is part of a growing and dangerous pattern. We must stand with Jay Powell and defend those independent agencies who underpin our economic resilience and national security. I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, Eastern North Carolina residents deserve access to clean drinking water and safe neighborhoods. We understand that aging water infrastructure, prone to leaks and contamination, and law enforcement agencies lacking the tools they need to be successful directly impact the well-being of our communities. Working with local officials, we prioritize these issues. I'm glad to share that over $5 million is being directed to Eastern North Carolina communities for upgrading water infrastructure. Funds will also be used to purchase safety gear to better protect our law enforcement officers. There's so much work to be done, and we plan to continue working with our local communities. By investing strategically in vital infrastructure and public safety, we are supporting Eastern North Carolina's communities and economy for decades to come. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from Michigan seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, the last time Donald Trump visited Detroit, he insulted our city, saying the whole country would end up like Detroit if Kamala Harris was elected. Mr. Trump promised to bring manufacturing jobs and economic success, but for the last 8 months, we have lost 68,000 jobs and unemployment has hit 4-year high. His tariffs have hurt Detroit's auto industry. Mr. Speaker, Detroit does not need any more of Donald Trump's lies and insults. Detroit needs affordable housing, not Trump's insults. Detroit needs skilled jobs, not Trump's insult. I'm fighting for Detroit, fighting to bring costs down and make life more affordable for all. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
Members are reminded to refrain from engaging in personalities towards the president, and the gentleman yields. Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 3rd, 2025, the gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Crawford, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on the topic of the special order into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's particularly important with this special order to clear the air. Americans deserve no less than to understand the truth of what just transpired in Venezuela. Nicolas Maduro has been removed as the reigning despot, narco-terrorist, and illegitimate president of Venezuela. This fact is a momentous and great thing, pure and simple. Notwithstanding what you might have heard from many Democrats, since President Trump successfully ordered Maduro's arrest and exfiltration, the realization on the part of the world, especially Venezuelans, that Maduro's sword of repression has come to an end and resulted in praise and thanksgiving. This mission clearly showed America's full force and capability to instigate good in the world and battle the forces of evil. Americans woke up on January 3rd, 2026 to news that our truly courageous and skillful intelligence community, law enforcement, and military had executed a mission that is simply unbelievable, if we had not heard about the exploits soon thereafter. What an unprecedented risk our men and women took on that day to do what no other political administration in the world had ever contemplated as remotely possible, to remove and exfiltrate for prosecution a ruthless dictator whose direct involvement in narco-terrorism has led to the death of scores of Americans and other allied citizens. Please don't take my word for the nature of Maduro's reign over Venezuela. My Democrat colleagues have for years been raising the alarm of Maduro's destruction through a multitude of legislative measures. Just a small subset of this Democrat-led legislation is cited in House Resolution HRES 987 we've introduced today. Examples include H.R. 328, Democrat-sponsored bill that excoriates the Maduro regime, which, quote, has refused to respect the overwhelming choice of the people of Venezuela and subsequently arrested and abused thousands of innocent citizens of Venezuela, including children, for peaceful political participation, end quote. Or consider HRES 1471 of the 118th Congress, another Democrat-sponsored piece of legislation that stresses, quote, Venezuela, where actors linked to the regime of Nicolas Maduro have engaged in a sustained and synchronized campaign of disinformation to undermine the country's 2023-2024 electoral process, invalidate the results of such elections, and attack Maria Corina Machado and other opposition leaders, end quote. Or pointing to the threat closer to home, Democrat-sponsored H.R. 8741 of the 118th Congress defined Maduro as a person of concern who is engaged in a, quote, long-term pattern of serious instances of activity adverse to the national security of the United States, the security of critical infrastructure of the United States, or the safety and security of United States persons, unquote. Or contemplate Democrat-sponsored H.R. 5670 of the 118th Congress that succinctly called for, quote, an end to usurpation of presidential authorities by Nicolas Maduro. Yet, despite this foregoing string of legislation sponsored by my friends on the other side of the aisle, pointing to Maduro's reign of terror, sadly, President Trump's decisive actions to do something about it all seems to have caused a reversal in sentiment among Democrats. Rather than expressing unity during a time when the Western Hemisphere has been freed from a despot's clutch, instead, Democrats have called the Trump administration, quote, warmongers, who are, quote, lying to the American people, or referring to the president himself as having put us in a, quote, fascist cul-de-sac, unquote, having committed, quote, an impeachable offense, unquote. Do these comments from Democrats sound supportive of the Trump administration or fine men and women who successfully conducted one of the most daring operations in American history? Not to me, not to any American who reads or hears them. Instead, they seem to revel in demeaning a president whose administration just accomplished what the Democrats have never been able to do, that is, executing Maduro's demise. Despite a long laundry list of Democrat bills and resolutions seemingly hoping for Maduro's eventual removal, Democrats now choose to attack those who were able to make the reality their previously voiced ambitions. But merely because it was the Trump administration which graciously performed the seemingly impossible, these Democrats now oppose one of America's greatest hours. To this end, we introduce a resolution today to make clear that the House of Representatives is supportive of the efforts of our brave patriots who deftly brought an end to Maduro's terrorization of not only the good people of Venezuela, but also those Americans and others who have experienced Maduro's drug-laden terrorism. This special order and the related House resolution clarify one thing. America is grateful for this administration's efforts to rid the world of a freedom-killing, murderous dictator. We are all better for it. I now recognize my friend, Vice Chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, the gentleman from Mississippi, Mr. Trent Kelly, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. America is safer today. A narco-terrorist, an illegitimate government leader, Nicolas Maduro, is removed from office and is awaiting trial in the United States of America. One of the clearest responsibilities of the president is ensuring that those who endanger American lives are brought to face justice. He did just that. When Nicolas Maduro continued to operate with impunity, President Trump made the decision to enforce United States law and protect our national security interests. Nicolas Maduro was not a legitimate leader. He was an indicted narco-terrorist who helped run Venezuela into a hub for drug trafficking, corruption, and foreign influence that directly threatened the United States and our allies. For years, there was bipartisan agreement on this fact. The difference is President Trump acted. As Secretary of State Marco Rubio made clear, this was a limited law enforcement action carried out with precision to enforce U.S. laws and protect our homeland. The message is clear. The Western Hemisphere is our home. It cannot and will not become a safe haven for drug cartels, Iranian proxies, or hostile actors who seek to undermine our security and poison our communities. This action made clear that the United States is serious about defending our national interests and holding criminals accountable, not through rhetoric, but through results. I want to express my deep gratitude to the law enforcement officers, service members, and intelligence professionals who carried out this operation. Their discipline and professionalism reflect the highest standards of our nation. President Trump, thank you, and he did not escalate a conflict. He enforced the law. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
I thank the gentleman from Mississippi, and I recognize my friend from Illinois, the distinguished subcommittee chairman of the National Security Agency Subcommittee on the House Intelligence Committee, Mr. LaHood, for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank you for having this special order here tonight and also for the introduction of the special resolution that lays out the justification and why we took out Nicolas Maduro. Mr. Speaker, I rise tonight in strong support of the capture of Nicolas Maduro. Nicolas Maduro and his corrupt inner circle have been U.S. law enforcement targets for over 15 years. With multiple agencies, including the U.S. Department of Justice, the DEA, and the FBI, working towards his arrest and his prosecution. In 2020, under the first Trump administration, the United States unsealed a superseding indictment out of the Southern District of New York against Maduro and more than a dozen of his associates, along with offering a $15 million reward for his capture. The 2020 indictment described Maduro and his top lieutenants as they served as leaders of the Cartel de los Soles for over 2 decades and partnered with known designated foreign terrorist organizations to move, at the time, over 250 tons of cocaine through Venezuela. Cocaine that was cultivated, manufactured, and moved through Venezuela. Then, fast forward to January 2025. The Biden administration and the Biden Department of Justice at the time, relying on the same indictment from the Trump administration, increased the bounty and reward for Maduro to $25 million. That's That's the same reward offered for information leading to Osama bin Laden's capture. Under the second Trump administration, earlier this month, last month, a superseding indictment was unsealed with updated estimates of cocaine smuggling linked to Maduro now exceeding thousands of tons. The new indictment highlights other criminal activity directly tied to Maduro, including providing fake travel documents to facilitate drug smuggling under the guise of diplomatic cover and partnerships with the Sinaloa cartel boss El Chapo. The bottom line is Maduro is a thug, he is a dictator, he is an international criminal. That was recognized by the Biden administration and obviously the Trump administration. The Department of Justice was in charge of this mission. It was their mission. And there was a lot of details that came out after the execution of this mission. But one thing that didn't get covered enough was that there were lawyers that immediately met Maduro when he was brought into United States custody. He was read his rights. He was given the opportunity to read the indictment before he was brought to the Southern District of New York. Narco-terrorism is a serious, serious charge. And if you look at the allegations in there, Maduro and his associates essentially flooded the United States with thousands and thousands of tons of cocaine. The other thing that doesn't get mentioned enough also is the fact that our adversaries, Iran, China, and Russia, essentially have used Venezuela for the last 20 years as a base and a platform to spy and threaten and cause chaos in the Western Hemisphere and the United States. That no longer will happen because of the brave work that was executed by our special forces on January 3rd. I give a lot of credit to the Trump team, Secretary Rubio, Director Radcliffe, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, General Kane, and obviously President Trump. None of this would have happened without that team that was in place. Venezuela is going to be a better place without Maduro. The region is going to be better off, and the world will be a better place. The reality is Maduro's capture and prosecution will save American lives. And I commend the Trump administration for taking this decisive action. There are additional targets of Maduro's criminal enterprise that remain at large, and now know that the U.S. will no longer tolerate or turn a blind eye to this transshipment of their cocaine and other drugs across our borders. I want to thank Chairman Crawford, and I want to thank the members of the HPSI committee for being here tonight, and look forward to continuing to work with the Trump administration to make the Western Hemisphere a safer place, and I yield back.
Thank my friend from Illinois, and I want to recognize the distinguished gentleman from the great state of Arkansas, my colleague, the distinguished member of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, as well as the chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, Mr. French Hill.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to stand on the floor with my colleague from Arkansas, our distinguished chair of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, and our colleagues to give the American people some perspective on the important action that President Trump has taken that reasserts American leadership in the Western Hemisphere, counters our rivals for that Western Hemisphere influence, Russia, Iran, China, and keep America safer by taking this action. The communist authoritarian government in Caracas has long been an adversary of the United States. In the early 2000s, our relationship with Venezuela was strained when they named strongman Hugo Chavez as their leader. Maduro was a leader in the Chavez government, Mr. Speaker, and was a full partner in the anti-American policies and the growing partnership with Cuba, China, Russia. In 2013, Maduro became the president of Venezuela after Chavez's death. He continued those communist partnerships, compounded the anti-American rhetoric and strategy by adding the goal of becoming a narco state. From 2014 to 2015, the United States began to sanction U.S. officials for drug trafficking. In 2017, the United States escalated sanctions against the Maduro government for its links to the illicit drug trade. In 2019, the United States no longer recognized Maduro as Venezuela's legitimate president. As a result, the United States officially cut diplomatic ties with the Maduro regime. In 2020, the Department of Justice charged Maduro with narco-terrorism, and the United States offered a $15 million reward for his capture. In 2024, in my view, Mr. Speaker, the last straw, Maduro lost the national election and annulled the results. He's simply a cheap, drug-dealing election fraudster. And don't take Republicans on this side of the aisle's word for it, Mr. Speaker. The European Union, the United States government under the Biden and the Trump administrations, the Organization for American States, his neighbors, they all agree Maduro stole the election in 2024 and compounded it by annulling the results. The regime was one long string of repression and human rights abuses. Over 8 million Venezuelans have fled Venezuela, their home country, because of Maduro. Republicans and Democrats have acknowledged that Maduro has been a national security threat to the United States. And that's why I have to call out the hypocrisy that I've witnessed in recent days from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. The Western Hemisphere is America's backyard. And it's also why I'm pleased that the recently released National Security Strategy reasserts the Monroe Doctrine with current American security interests. Under the National Security Strategy, the United States will enlist allies in the Western Hemisphere to partner in controlling migration, halting drug trafficking, and mutually strengthening stability and security. Also under the Trump National Security Strategy, the United States will expand our goals and partners in the Western Hemisphere by bringing in new countries, building new relationships, bolstering America as the top choice as a security and an economic partner. The strength of the Trump administration, combined with the exceptional execution by our law enforcement and military operators, showcases, Mr. Speaker, how serious the United States is to keep our country safe, keep our people safe, keep our streets safe, and secure our allied economic and security interests from the tip of Argentina and Chile to Canada. And with that, Mr. Speaker and my friend from Arkansas, thank you for your leadership, and I yield back my time.
I thank the gentleman from Arkansas for those outstanding comments. Pleased to recognize my good friend from the great state of Georgia, the distinguished member of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence and chairman of the National Intelligence Enterprise Subcommittee, Mr. Austin Scott.
Thank you, Chairman. And I have, as other members, gotten a number of calls over the last couple of days about whether or not I think the President did the right thing or not. And I want to just read this to you. President of the United States of America find that the situation in Venezuela, including the government of Venezuela's erosion of human rights guarantees, persecution of political opponents, curtailment of press freedoms, use of violence and human rights violations and abuses in response to anti-government protests, and arbitrary arrest and detention of anti-government protesters, as well as the exacerbating presence of significant public corruption, constitutes an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States. Now, what I want you to know is that wasn't Donald Trump that wrote that. That was Barack Obama that wrote that. And if President Obama or President Biden had taken the same actions to remove Maduro from power and help not just the United States, but the Western Hemisphere and the world as a whole, I can honestly tell you that the Republicans would have applauded those actions. But because it was President Trump and the Trump derangement syndrome, the hatred that Democrats have for him, he has been attacked for it. Remember this. President Trump, he did put a bounty on Maduro. But it was President Biden that raised the bounty to $25 million in January of this year. Chuck Schumer in 2020 attacked. And the president brags about his Venezuela policy. Give us a break. He hasn't brought an end to Maduro. the Maduro regime. The Maduro regime is more powerful today and more entrenched today than it was when the president began. That was Chuck Schumer in 2020. What's Chuck Schumer saying today? It's reckless, and the American people are just this morning in fear of what's going to happen here. Let me tell you something. The world is a safer place because of what Donald Trump ordered and what our military carried out this past week. The Western Hemisphere cannot be a safe space for China, Russia, Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, or the other terrorists that were being given safe haven in Venezuela. Speaker Pelosi in 2019 ended her roundtable comments with a resounding, "It's clear Maduro must go. The sooner, the better." Madam Speaker, you should congratulate President Trump. But instead, what did she say? Venezuela is ruled by an illegitimate regime, but the administration has not made the case that an urgent threat to America's national security existed to justify the use of U.S. military force. Mr. Speaker, I'm thankful that we have a president in the White House with the guts to get it done, who has helped us build a military with the capability to get it done. It was one of the most impressive military operations that I think the world has ever witnessed. And those men and women, whether they were on the ground, in the air, or supporting that mission, deserve accommodations, not criticism, as does the President of the United States, Donald Trump. With that, I yield my time.
I thank the gentleman from Arkansas for those from Georgia rather, for those eloquent statements. And I'm now pleased to recognize my good friend from Florida, also a member and colleague on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Mr. Greg Steube.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of the Trump administration's actions in capturing Nicolas Maduro. Over the past week, Democrats have claimed that Maduro's capture was unconstitutional, illegal, and violated international norms. Democrats argued that Congress must declare war or give explicit authorization before the president can act. Article 2 is clear. The president is the commander-in-chief, and the Constitution has never required a declaration of war for every use of force, national security, or law enforcement operation against criminal actors who threaten the United States. President Clinton acted in Kosovo. President Obama acted in Libya. President Biden even ordered strikes against terrorist leaders, and in none of those cases did Democrats suddenly discover a constitutional crisis. The War Powers Resolution recognizes that the president may act first and notify Congress afterwards. There is no legal requirement that Congress be notified before the president takes action. That framework has governed American foreign policy for more than 50 years. Maduro is not a legitimate head of state. He's a criminal defendant under United States law who was charged and indicted in 2020 by the Department of Justice for drug trafficking and other related crimes. There is legal precedent directly on point. All of these arguments made by the Democrats that it's illegal should look no further than President Bush's capture of Manuel Noriega in Panama in 1989. Like the Maduro operation, the Panama invasion occurred without congressional authorization. Like Noriega, Maduro faces federal drug trafficking charges. Like Noriega, he was captured through military operations conducted without congressional authorization. Like Noriega, he'll surely argue head of state immunity and unlawful seizure. But just like the court found in Noriega's case, he will be prosecuted for his crimes, and the actions that led to his seizure are legally sound, as it follows a 36-year-old template validated by federal courts. Mr. Speaker, to the Americans whose communities have been devastated by drugs, to the families who have lost loved ones, and to the people of our hemisphere who have suffered under his criminal regime, this action sends a clear message. Narco-terrorism dictators are not immune from consequences, and the United States will not stand by while our citizens continue to be poisoned and murdered by the Maduro regime. I yield back.
I thank the gentleman from Florida for his eloquent comments, and I'm now pleased to recognize my good friend from New York, the gentlelady who also is my colleague on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Ms. Claudia Tenney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to commend President Donald J. Trump for his decisive leadership that restored American strength, put our security first, and reasserted the rule of law on behalf of the American people in our hemisphere. For years, Venezuela under Nicolas Maduro was not a legitimate government. It functioned as a criminal enterprise, enriching corrupt elites, fueling narco-terrorist networks, and exporting disorder throughout the Western Hemisphere. That criminal activity did not stop at Venezuela's borders. It strengthened cartels, expanded drug trafficking routes, and contributed directly to the fentanyl crisis that is devastating working families across the United States, including my home state of New York. Under President Trump, that era of weakness is over. Criminals no longer get a free pass. Through Operation Absolute Resolve, U.S. forces and law enforcement partners successfully captured Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, both tied to narcotics trafficking, in a carefully planned, coordinated operation carried out with precision and without a single U.S. casualty. This is what peace through strength looks like. This was a lawful action. This was an act of justice against an indicted narco-trafficker who believed he could evade accountability while ordinary people paid the price. President Trump proved him wrong. This operation also demonstrated what strong leadership looks like. Our military, intelligence community, and law enforcement agencies work seamlessly together, drawing on decades of experience to deliver accountability. And the administration did not stop there. By cracking down on sanctioned oil shipments and seizing illicit tankers operating in violation of U.S. law, President Trump sent a clear message. Sanctions will be enforced. Criminal profits will be cut off, and rigged systems will be dismantled. When you stop the money, you choke off the trafficking. Predictably, Democrats have reacted with hysteria, due largely to their acute Trump derangement syndrome and insistence on an America Last policy. This is reminiscent of the policies of the Biden administration. Democrats would rather see America cower to our adversaries than stand up for our people and enforce the Monroe Doctrine, or now we refer to it as the Don Roe Doctrine. Appeasement never results in effective deterrence. Democrats' fecklessness has empowered dictators, emboldened traffickers, and left Americans less safe. Peace through strength works, and strong leadership matters. The mission is stability in the Western Hemisphere, a secure transition in Venezuela that prevents criminals and adversaries from filling a dangerous vacuum. President Trump will continue to lead with strength, accountability, and resolve. Mr. Speaker, this operation stands for a simple principle: stand with the rule of law, cut off the money supply, stop the trafficking, and always put America first, and the American people will win. I yield.
I thank the gentlelady from New York for those outstanding comments. Mr. Speaker, I take no pleasure in highlighting the hypocrisy of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. In fact, I wish we all could speak with one voice on this issue. It should never be partisan or controversial to praise the arrest of a man like Nicolas Maduro. Make no mistake about it, Nicolas Maduro is a murderer, an autocrat, a narco-terrorist, and a thug who has oppressed his people, stolen elections, turned a once prosperous and free country into a desperate nation that millions have fled. We should all be celebrating the actions of the Trump administration and attempting to bring him to justice. Sadly, as we've shown today, many of my Democrat friends who were once on the right side of this issue have changed their minds simply because Nicolas Maduro's arrest was orchestrated by someone they don't like, President Trump. Instead of celebrating the administration of justice by an impartial U.S. court, they bemoan it. They call it unconstitutional, illegal, impeachable, and fascist. They insinuate that our government is somehow no better than Maduro's socialist and murderous regime. That's just nonsense. In fact, it's embarrassing for those members. I respect my colleagues, both Democrat and Republican, who have long opposed the Maduro regime and the Chavez regime before it. People like Representatives Salazar and Jimenez, who represent thousands of Venezuelan Americans whose families or who themselves have experienced the terror of Venezuelan socialism and oppression. I want to thank them for taking the time to support us and why this effort in Congress is so vital. Without voices like theirs bringing our true feelings of Venezuelan Americans, we would only have heard from those who cared more about opposing the president than bringing an oppressor to justice. I also want to thank the many nameless, faceless Americans who planned and executed this daring and successful arrest. The public will never know their names or see their faces. Americans who have suffered from drug overdoses and their families brought on by illegal narcotics trafficked to the U.S. by Maduro and his cronies We'll never get to thank those individuals, but I want to thank them, and I want them to know that they're being prayed for and thanked for all that they've done. Bringing a man like Nicolas Maduro to justice won't bring back the millions of Americans we've lost to drugs or the countless number of Venezuelans who have been political victims of the regime, but it's a start. Mr. Speaker, justice is worth fighting for. A Western Hemisphere free from drug trafficking, gangs, supported and run by illegitimate autocrats is worth fighting for. Standing behind our principles, even when it's politically inconvenient, is a posture worth fighting for. Mr. Speaker, as I close tonight, I want to remind the American people that this administration's law enforcement actions to bring Maduro to justice have received the full support of Republicans in Congress. I hope that my Democrat colleagues who were once in favor of such actions will be able to put aside their animus toward the president and embrace the new possibilities for the people of Venezuela. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I want to yield the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. Does the gentleman have a motion at this time?
Mr. Speaker, I move the House do now adjourn.
The question is on the motion to adjourn. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Accordingly, the House stands adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning for morning hour debate.